But here's some of my takeaways from the preseason game number one. Who cares about the results? I don't. The Patriots whooped our ass. I don't really care. It's a bunch of 2s and 3s and guys that hopefully never actually play a game for Washington for a large majority of who were playing on Friday. So I don't really care what happened in like the third and fourth quarter. I barely care what happened in the second quarter. Outside of the penalties, I think the penalty speaks to a little bit of a larger issue of maybe not taking practice as seriously as practice needs to be taken. So that I think is a fair takeaway here. The biggest standout to me, though, was Johnny Newton, because Johnny Newton was going up against the ones for the Patriots. They played their offensive line, especially on the interior of their offensive line. How do we know this? Because you have to be the biggest imbecile, and Mike Vrabel is not. You have to be the biggest imbecile if you're going to trot your starting day one quarterback, the future of your franchise, Drake May, out behind number 2s on the offensive line. You're not going to do that. When Jaden Daniels plays in the preseason, which is hopefully going to be against Cincinnati, we will get more confirmation on that this week. When Jaden goes out there, he's not going to be playing behind the number 2s on the offensive line. You just don't do that. So Johnny Newton played against the number 1s for New England, and Johnny Newton was fantastic on defense. He's much more of a pass rusher than he is a run stopper. That's why the team signed Javon Kinlaw. Javon Kinlaw is a massive human being, and he is going to eat double teams, which will in turn open up space for Bobby Wagner, and then potentially, whether it be Johnny Newton or Daron Payne, give them single matchups and then allow them to go one-on-one against somebody, get off the block, get to the hole, make the stop, right? So Javon Kinlaw is going to be your run stuffer. Johnny Newton was not playing with Javon Kinlaw. Javon Kinlaw did not play. So on the run, he didn't look great. That's fine. Fair. In the pass rush, though, oh, Lord have mercy. In the pass rush, Johnny Newton was excellent. A really, really strong performance. He had the sack and what ended up being the strip sack, forcing a fumble. He was excellent. And there had been a lot of talk about Johnny Newton this offseason. Some positive, some maybe not so positive, because people were looking at what happened in 2024 and saying, well, he didn't pan out. He wasn't good. He wasn't good. The defensive line sucks. He wasn't very good. And admittedly, he was not sensational in 2024, but he also was hurt for the entire offseason. So now with a full offseason, healthy, and now a full offseason of understanding what it means to be a professional in the NFL, I have insanely high expectations for Johnny Newton. If what we saw in the preseason game was what we are going to get in the regular season, Johnny Newton is going to be an animal. And the combination, the three-man weave of Javon Kinlaw, Daron Payne, and Johnny Newton could be a very, very dangerous combination for an offensive, or for a defensive unit, rather, a defensive line unit that on the interior in particular was kind of awful last year. So I didn't expect that Newton was going to ball out the way that he did against the Patriots number 1s, but he looked really, really sharp and really, really dominant in a way that we have not seen from that position since Daron Payne was up for a contract. I don't know that he's going to have 11.5 sacks this season. That's not what I'm getting at, but it was nice to see that he does have a little bit of dominance in him. And if we pair him up with guys that are actual number 1s, like a Kinlaw, like a Daron Payne, there could be something there with the Johnny Newton hype. I really, really loved what I saw from Johnny Newton. Number 2 on the takeaways that are positive. The hype for Jakori Croskey-Merritt is going to be insane, Max. It already was crazy. It already was. It is not going to slow down anytime in the near future.
It shouldn't. Those cuts he was making something out of nothing, and it was very impressive.
There was some real vision there with Jakori Croskey-Merritt. And there was some real getting skinny, as they say, in fitting his way through the hole. You look at his numbers, 7 carries, 24 yards. That's not going to jump off of the page at you. It doesn't have to. I don't really care. Again, stats in the preseason, not much. But just seeing the way that he ran with a violence that it feels like we have not seen here in a little bit.
Runs like Pacheco.
With his awareness of finding the hole, attacking the hole, but then his peripheral vision to cut when needed is something we really haven't seen in a long time. It's a combination of violent running, but legitimate agility that he has that is not possessed by another running back on the roster. And if we're honest with ourselves, a main reason why we care so much, or why we are so, as fans, hype about Jakori Croskey-Merritt is because a lot of us are kind of done with Brian Robinson in some capacity or another. Had really high hopes for him in 2024. He did not live up to those high hopes in 2024. And now people are kind of mostly indifferent about what he is going to be on this team, understanding that he's likely not going to be back next year, because you're not going to shell out a lot of money to a running back that you don't think is very good. And he had all the reasons to be good last year, and he still couldn't get over 1,000 yards. He still couldn't have that Alfred Morris-esque season that Alfred had with Robert in his first year. It might be a little unfair to think that Brian Robinson was going to go for 1,200 just playing next to Jane Daniels for the first time, but we thought he was going to be better than he was. And towards the end of the season, there are points and times where it felt like Brian Robinson was leaving a lot on the field. So that is a major reason as to why we are so infatuated with Jakori Croskey-Merritt, because he does some things that Brian Robinson does not do, that a majority of us have been wanting Brian Robinson to do for years. And it feels like Bill is a much better natural at some of those things. Like, he plays the running back position very naturally. There's an ease with him. It's like this weird combination. It's a perfect combination, but it's a weird combination of ease and violence. You don't normally get those two things. But he's so easy at playing the position, and then he runs with a violence and a speed and agility that we have not really seen. So the hype for him is only going to continue to get higher and higher and higher. He's still not going to be the day one starter. Brian Robinson is not going to get cut, but Bill is going to make this roster. I always thought that he was going to make the roster. I did not imagine that he was not going to make the roster, but he is going to make the roster, and he's going to kind of twist the arm of the decision makers a little bit, because there's no chance he makes it to the practice squad. It's just not going to happen, which means McNichols and Chris Rodriguez, they are likely going to be guys that they release and say, I really hope that you're here for the practice squad, unless they decide to keep 4 running backs. I can't imagine they're keeping 4 running backs, although some of these guys do play special teams, which is you can justify potentially keeping 4 if they all play special teams. But the hype for Jakori Croskey-Merritt is only going to get higher and higher. Number 3, Josh Connolly Jr. was really, really good. How do I know that Josh Connolly Jr. was really, really good? Because he was not talked about at all. When you are a rookie right tackle playing in your first preseason game, you're not going to get like Shedeur Sanders hype, understood. But you should be mentioned a lot more than he was. And he wasn't mentioned, which means the commentators did not have a reason to mention him. And trust me, if he had sucked, they would have mentioned him, and he did not. He did his job. He handled his business. It had been a little bit of an up and down kind of training camp for him. You're learning a new position. This is natural. It's going to happen with rookies in the NFL. You're learning a new position. He played left tackle in college. They're moving him to right tackle because you have Laramie Tunsil at left tackle, and you're not moving him off of the left side. So he's learning a new position. He's going up against much better athletes. Now, he played in the Big Ten, so the Big Ten did have good athletes along the defensive line, but he's going up against much better athletes. There had been some up and down days in the preseason or in training camp, but on Friday, he looked really, really good. And if you want to care about Pro Football Focus grades, he graded 77.7 in run blocking. Having a right tackle that likes to block in the run game is crucial. Wiley was good last year. He wasn't great. Well, maybe Wiley was fine last year. He certainly wasn't great. Maybe you could argue good. But if Connolly, who eventually is going to take over that spot, don't know if he's going to be starting week 1. I don't think it's a huge issue if he is not starting week 1, but he will eventually take over that spot. He played really, really well in his first action in the preseason game. Trey Amos also looked really good. He wasn't thrown to a ton. I would have really liked if New England tried to test Trey Amos a little bit more, just to kind of see. You know, it's one thing to see him perform at a high level in training camp when there's no Terry and no Noah Brown. You get occasional matchups with Deebo Samuel, but for the most part, you're going up against guys that at best are wide receiver 4 on this roster, and on other rosters might be wide receiver 5 in some instances. So it's kind of hard to tell how good he is when he's going up against the guys that are on in camp now with Terry and Noah not being participants, but I thought he looked pretty good in the limited amounts of times that we saw the ball come his direction in preseason game number 1. I'm excited about him. I think that defensive backfield is so much better than it was last year. Noah, who was number 3 as a corner last year, is now like number 5. And he was I thought Noah was a pretty decent number 3 last year, Max. He's like a really good number 5. If he's your 5th option, you feel really good about the 4 guys that are ahead of him in that depth chart. Jakori Brooks played really well. I would have liked to see him play maybe a little bit earlier, so you see him get work against some 2s and maybe like a 1 in there, although they didn't play a lot of their 1s on defense, did New England. But he looked really good. Tay Martin also really shined, I thought, at the wide receiver spot. I was hoping we'd see a lot more from Jalen Lane. We did not. I was hoping we'd see a lot more from Luke McCaffrey. We did not. I think that was by design. Those 2 guys feel like their position is cemented on the roster, at least for sure. Jalen Lane is, because you're not going to draft a guy in the 3rd round and then immediately turn around and cut him. That's not going to happen. So Jalen Lane feels pretty good, and I would imagine that Luke McCaffrey is on this roster as well. So you already have 5 wide receivers on this roster, with Noah Brown, Debo, and Terry being the other 5, because yes, Terry is going to be on the roster week 1, and he's going to be playing for the Commanders in week 1. Will he have a new contract? I don't know. But he's going to be playing for the team in week number 1. So you already have 5 wide receivers. If you keep 6, that means 1 slot is open. If you keep 7, obviously that would mean 2 slots are open. I wanted to see a little bit more from, though, Luke and Jalen, just to kind of see what is being worked with here and what you can realistically expect. Really, I just don't want to waste all my money again betting Luke McCaffrey anytime touchdowns, Max.
I think we're Jalen Lane.
I think so.
We'll discuss.
Yeah, I'm still going to bet Luke McCaffrey week 1.
I probably will.
Like I'm gonna bet it until it doesn't happen, because the one time I don't bet it, it's going to happen.
That's the one. Yeah.
So like I just have to be locked in for the ride.
Got to be consistent. Keep
those were my biggest positive takeaways.